Donald Trump is losing it as panic engulfs the entire White House. An emergency meeting was held yesterday inside the Oval Office between Donald Trump and senior leaders from his regime. They are panicking as the American people, including his MAGA base, has turned against him. Impeach Donald Trump. Impeach Kristi Noem. Impeach Pete Hegseth. Impeach Kash Patel. Impeach them all. Abolish ICE and Border Patrol. Prosecute Greg Bovino. Prosecute the murderers of Renee Nicole Good. Prosecute the murderers of Alex Jeffrey Pretty. Prosecute the murderers of all of the 30 plus individuals who died last year, who were murdered in ICE detention centers, and the 7 to 9 individuals who have died this year that we know of in ICE detention centers. That is what the American people are saying. And the Trump regime is panicking. This is an existential crisis for them. And yesterday they seemed to be demoting or firing Greg Bovino from his role as being the chief of Border Patrol. But it's unclear what's actually happening there because everything is unorganized, murky, and a lie when it comes to this Trump regime. They are flailing right now, and their sycophants on right-wing state regime media are losing it as well. Just take a look at what's happening on Newsmax, which is its own version of state regime media. In many ways, if it's even possible, worse than Fox state regime media. Take a look at what they're saying on Newsmax. Here, play this clip.
I want to show you something. Does that look like a gun? I think it does a little bit. It's a phone. It's black, like most phones. That's crazy stuff.
Now, going back to state regime media known as Fox, here Kash Patel once again lets all of those Second Amendment absolutists know that the Trump regime actually hates the Second Amendment. Watch this.
Sean, like you said, we truly, fully support the Second Amendment, people's right to bear arms. But when you enter into a situation, a volatile situation like Minnesota, where there were riots on the streets and people attacking federal law enforcement officers and ramming them with vehicles and continued criminality and burning down and literally destroying federal vehicles and stealing information, we have to ask people what's prudential, what's smart. And it's not smart to go out there with a fully loaded weapon. We're just saying, be careful and be reasonable, like you've outlined. If you have a right to a permit for a firearm, that's okay. But you cannot incite violence and you cannot break the law and attack federal law enforcement officers.
And similarly, on state regime media, you have this guy Jones, and he basically makes it clear that he hates the Second Amendment as well. Here, play this clip.
Because I've been in that situation. There's a couple of things. Number one, the Second Amendment is a right. I'm not a Second Amendment absolutist. You have the right to carry a weapon to defend yourself, not the privilege. It is a right. Those rights come with restrictions. I think you would understand that more than anyone at this table. One of those restrictions is you have to have your ID and your permit on you. We don't know. Current reports are he didn't have either one of those on, at which point he's not carrying legally. But number two, even beyond that, with the right to carry a firearm comes the responsibility to do it correctly and to do it with foresight and to do it understanding the situation you're walking into and what could happen once you get there.
Now, as we've been covering here on the MeidasTouch Network, the calls for a boycott of the FIFA World Cup have been growing. A major executive in the German football league or soccer in the United States started to call for a boycott of the World Cup. And now the former FIFA president, Sepp Blatter, called on World Cup fans, stay away from the United States. Stay away. That's the one piece of advice that we have for you right now. And that's pretty powerful coming from the former head of FIFA right there. More I want to discuss. Donald Trump claims that he spoke with Mayor Fry of Minneapolis. Here's what Donald Trump says went down after he held this emergency meeting in the Oval Office. Donald Trump said, I just had a very good telephone conversation with Mayor Jacob Fry of Minneapolis. Lots of progress is being made. Tom Homan will be meeting with him tomorrow in order to continue the discussion. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And then earlier in the day, Donald Trump posted a similar message about Governor Tim Walz. Weren't you calling Governor Walz Tampon Tim and demanding that he be criminally prosecuted just days before? Weren't you calling on Mayor Fry to be prosecuted as well? Hasn't your regime called them insurrectionists? I'm glad that they're adults and they're representing their citizens of Minnesota and Minneapolis respectively. But I don't know, how do you toggle between saying Tampon Tim and I'm going to prosecute you to, oh, we've had very productive conversations here. Now, after this emergency meeting that took place in the Oval Office between Donald Trump and his senior leaders, the Trump regime then caused the U.S. Holocaust Museum to put out the following statement. Just to remind you, the Trump regime removed, because it's part of a trust that the U.S. government has selection of who's on the board of the U.S. Holocaust Museum. Back in April, Donald Trump fired and took everybody off the board of the Holocaust Museum, and he handpicked his own people to be on the board of the Holocaust Museum. And the Holocaust Museum then posted the following message. Anne Frank was targeted and murdered solely because she was Jewish. Leaders making false equivalencies to her experience for political purposes is never acceptable. Despite tensions in Minneapolis, exploiting the Holocaust is deeply offensive, especially as anti-Semitism surges. How gross that the Trump regime has now co-opted the U.S. Holocaust Museum to put out political messages attacking people who compare the behavior of the ICE and Border Patrol paramilitary, which resembles the behavior of SS. And now the Holocaust Museum is like, you can't make that comparison, because if you make that comparison, it's anti-Semitic. No, it's not. It's comparing what these authoritarian paramilitary groups are doing, which has a lot of the same qualities and which has a lot of resemblance. As I mentioned before, the tide is turning against Donald Trump and his regime. I mean, you have MAGA Republican Congressmember Blake Moore, who's the vice chair of the House GOP conference, has been telling reporters after reviewing details of the ICE murder of Alex Jeffrey Preti, quote, "It clearly requires an in-depth investigation," adding that he did not see anything that supported the characterization of Alex Preti as brandishing a firearm, and he calls on government officials not to make judgments before reviewing all of the evidence. Similarly, Senator John Curtis of Utah put out the following message. "You've trusted me, and maintaining that trust matters. I've worked hard to be your eyes, ears, and voice. We must have a transparent, independent investigation into the Minnesota shooting, and those responsible, no matter their title, must be held accountable. Officials who rush to judgment before all the facts are known undermine public trust and law enforcement's mission. I disagree with Secretary Noem's premature DHS response, which came before all the facts were known and weakened confidence. I will be working with a bipartisan group of senators to demand real oversight and transparency, including supporting calls from Rand Paul for leaders of these operations to testify so trust can be restored and justice served." Now, while all of that's taking place, Donald Trump is sending emails like this to his supporters. I subscribe to his email listserv so you don't have to. This is how he is scaring his supporters into giving him money. It says, "I am President Trump. You've been audited by Trump." Then you open it up, you go, "I've been audited by Trump." It says, "I've started the process of conducting an audit, the official Trump audit. I am President Trump, and I am asking for your insight into my first year as the 47th president. But you must do so before the clock strikes 12 midnight. Hurry, complete the Trump audit." I've referred to this before as elderly abuse, and it's not just elderly abuse. He is predatory and he is preying on his supporters generally. Imagine thinking that the government is auditing you. You have to respond before a certain period of time to let him know how you feel about him. And then when you click the things, you end up giving him thousands of dollars. As I've said, these emails are deeply, deeply predatory. While Donald Trump's out there saying he's conducting fake audits against his own supporters in order to make money from them, just look at some of the data out there. U.S. long-term unemployment has now hit a 4-year high as job seekers spend months trying to find work as the labor market cools. But Donald Trump says everything is amazing right now. I'm going to do a whole other video about it this morning. But you have the EU and India entering into one of the biggest trade deals ever. As Ursula von der Leyen, the European Union Commission president, says, this is the mother of all trade deals. Donald Trump moving the EU and India closer together. You have Canada sending naval patrol vessels to Greenland for its opening of a new consulate. The Foreign Affairs Minister, Anita Anand, said, Canada's principal pragmatism and foreign policy will be on full display next week in Greenland when she opens Canada's new consulate in the Danish territory, with Inuit representatives attending and a Navy vessel in the background. Canada, again, showing more support for Greenland and Denmark, while Greenland is warning its people that the United States is likely going to be engaged in influence campaigns and espionage right there within Greenland. They told people to watch out. I guess one thing I want to point out as well, just to have a sense of like these Trump sycophants right here, as Jake Johnson says, imagine being a congressman from Minnesota. You have this MAGA Republican congressman here and caring so little about what's happening here that you just copy and paste talking points. If you're not writing your own statements and you're not holding town halls, what exactly are we paying you for? Here's MAGA Republican Congressmember Brad Finstead, who says, Hi, Brad. I'm sending you a post on socials regarding the Trump walls conversation. This has been approved by staff. We'll be using the picture attached and caption for all 3 platforms. Caption: Thank you, President Trump and Governor Walz. I'm pleased to see these recent developments. The only way to a resolution is through productive conversations. These are the talking points being fed to him by the Trump regime and by the RNC, as the Trump regime is in an utter panic right now. We will keep you posted every step of the way. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. And thanks for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.